Hello, class. Welcome to our reading review of Using Sources Part 2. Let's pick up on 447 after the frequently used signal verbs. Uh, the pages begin with using sources to clarify and support your own argument. So these are the ways that we'll use sources within our essays to clarify, to make clear our point, and to support our point. Whether those source quotations are to support the point that Freston's argument is effective, or those source quotations are to support a point you want to make about why we should uh, eat less meat. Um, Using the sources helps to clarify and support your arguments. And in your body paragraphs, you should have at least one quote uh, per body paragraph, and make sure that you're commenting on the significance of the quote and explaining how it helps support your point. Is it a fact? Is it an example? Is it a detail? Be specific about how the quote helps support your point. And again, when you bring in outside sources, you're using Rogerian argument. You're demonstrating empathy and understanding of others' perspectives. Um, there's various ways to incorporate your sources, right? To add clarity and support. You can highlight differences or counter arguments. Again, be Rogerian. Uh, you can use them to develop and support a claim, to present a technical term, concept, or definition in some ways. You can use them to review what others are saying about the subject. Again, all of these demonstrate, or many of these strategies on pages 447 to 451 demonstrate Rogerian argument. Now, on 451, they also discuss the concept of avoiding patch writing, stitching together material from the sources without properly addressing it, setting up the quotes, quoting them correctly, and commenting on the significance. Do not patch write. Set the quote up, cite it correctly, and then comment on the significance, right? Properly summarize or paraphrase why the quote, right, and its message fits to your claim, to your argument, and make sure you document it. Okay, we have the sample uh, work cited here on page 453. We know to put the author's last name and either the page or paragraph number in the parenthesis after the quote, before the period, right? Freston, comma, P-A-R, period, and then the paragraph number, all in parentheses. You'll notice um, proper citation is of the utmost importance, and it's not just in text, right? It's in the work cited too. As we're moving on in the reading, plagiarism and academic integrity. You have to cite your sources correctly and make sure you always give credit, whether you're paraphrasing, summarizing, or quoting. That's why I always say it's best to just use direct quotations. Set the source up with either a signal phrase and a comma or a complete sentence and a colon. Again, maybe you use the first sentence from your précis with a colon after it to set up your quotes. Make sure you're citing them with the author's last name and the page or paragraph number in the parentheses before the period. If you mention the author's last name in the sentence, right, you do not have to repeat their name in the parenthesis with the period. Okay? So hopefully everybody is recognizing the importance of acknowledging your sources correctly. There's numerous examples within the readings uh, on pages 460, 461, 462, 463. I think they're very clear on how to do that, on how to acknowledge your sources. Now, That brings us to documenting sources as well. As I've mentioned, and that takes us to the next reading on page 467. If you do not mention the author's name in the sentence, put their name and the page or paragraph number in the parentheses before the period. We see that number 2 on page 467, when the author is named in the parentheses. If you mention the author in the signal phrase or the sentence setting the quote up, you just put the page or paragraph number. Abbreviate paragraph number PAR period. We see that on page 467, number 1. Now, if you want to visually see how to use paragraph numbers, on pages 470 to 471, number 16 says electronic source. Use the abbreviation PAR period or PARS period if there's multiple paragraphs, paragraphs 2 to 3. Use SEC period if you want to cite by section number, or use PT period if you want to cite by part number. Now, most of the time it's just going to be PAR period. But again, if for non-print electronic sources, pages 470 to 471, number 16 is very clear on the documentation. The next thing that you need to do, if you turn the page to 472, is compile your list of works cited, and the book is very clear on what you need for that list. If it's a print source on page 472, and follow the guidelines number 8 for a selection in an anthology if you're citing anything from this book. If it's an online document, an electronic or digital document, pages 477 through 480 are very clear on the different ways to cite electronic documents. The most common form of document is number 31 on page 477. After going over the list of things that you need for your citation, organize those ideas as instructed on number 31, page 477. You start with the author, then you put the title in quotes, the website in italics, the publisher or sponsor, the date, the medium that you accessed it, web, and the date you accessed it. In that order. Make sure every line after the first is indented. They call that hanging indent. And when you create your works cited list, make sure you put it in alphabetical order, and you put the things that need to be in quotes, and the things that need to be in italics, in italics. I hope this video review was helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.